All right, thank you very much for joining me today. My name is Stephen Marchewitz. I'm president of SecureState. We're an information security management consulting firm here to help with some of the things that we've been seeing and talk to different people about when we're trying to align security with enterprise risk. And that's got quite a few challenges to it, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. We do quite a bit of assessments in and around this to give you some background on who we are and what we do. Quite a few assessments on aligning the security program with security risk management, and now taking it to that next step and aligning with enterprise security. So the first thing I want to start with is, how did we get here? Well, typically when we look at the executives, no one cared about security or risk management. It's typically been the last thing that's been addressed by organizations. And once we started to realize, all right, we need to have risk management as a company so we don't go out of business, that type of thing, as we've talked about in some of the other areas, we also, at the bottom end, our security as a group or as a whole, we have all these reactive tasks as we realize we need to protect the organization. We realize that we need doors and windows and locks and firewalls and all that good stuff. So we're doing a lot of reactive tasks, and there's this real big organizational gap. And today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges and how we're looking to overcome it going forward. So right now, where are we with security? Well, for the most part, and we use this slide, the check, act, plan, do, is kind of where security starts and how you get the program rolling. And right now, this wheel where you check your work, you do an assessment, typically be that a pen test, an InfoSec, risk-based assessment, something along those lines. You find out a bunch of things, some sort of PCI or HIPAA or some sort of gap. You find out a bunch of things, you have to act on those, turn that down, shut that off, get that thing recoded, move along. You have to act quickly. Then you have to build your plan, then you implement the plan, and then you check again. And this circle actually is going fairly well, and we've seen this really get more mature and much more sophisticated over the last 5 years or so. On the whole, we're doing a much better job with visibility. Executives are buying into it to some degree, and we're able to, in fact, increase budgets in a lot of cases, and if not, at least illuminate some of the problems that we have in the security community. So when we look at our programs, when we start off with our security program, we still have a tremendous amount of risk. And at that point, we are really not spending a lot of money. And this is what we see when we first come into an organization with some sort of an assessment. They have a tremendous amount of problems, tremendous amount of risk. They're really not spending much or doing much, and they don't even know what they don't know. After it starts to mature, that level of money certainly increases, and the risk comes down. But typically not commensurate with the amount of money that we're spending. And that is because we have a lot of challenges in how to, again, align with those executives. And a lot of things that we need their support on for understanding which risks we're going to address and which ones we aren't, based on the different cost-benefit ratios, et cetera. But right now, we're really reducing risk and cost at the same time, but the specifics are unknown. And that's what we hope to address when we're aligning both the people who actually have to do the work as well as the executives who are making the decisions. So some of the challenges we have with security risk management is it's really not well defined, and thus it's not taken seriously. We see countless times where, again, security has been at the bottom end of things, really not brought into in alignment with anything, really no formal discussions around how it aligns with risk. Just, are you doing this, are you not? Did you shut that door? Did you follow this HIPAA regulation? Whatever it may be. And most of those risk management officers' functions are really very narrowly focused. In insurance companies, they're looking at slip and fall risk. That's the basis of the risk management program. Hospitals, clinical risk is the basis of their risk management program. So that's just the way that they grew up. Really, still, few organizations have defined ERM, and thus we have nothing for security to tie into it. And then when you talk this high level of we have these security risks or risk management, this ethereal high level, there's always the chance that the value is lost and unseen. And the reason why we say that is because we really need to try to understand somehow where we are and where we need to go. But no one wants to pay for that. You never want to pay for the project management. You just want someone digging up ditch. You don't care about the guy who's kind of overseeing it. And that's typically the way that goes. And it's the same way for security risk management. And because a lot of what we do is really guesstimates or guesswork, it's hard to quantify and it's hard to defend yourself against scrutiny from typical CFOs when they say, tell me what this is going to cost, what benefit are we going to gain, how do we know that someone was going to break in the first place and you're telling me we have to do all this stuff. And typically it's a lot of it a guess. And if you're really looking to get a seat at the table or some sort of vehicle to talk, you have to do it in such a way that everyone buys in, that it's also practical, but also moves you up the chain. So how do we bridge that gap? What are the steps that are kind of typically going between? As we showed before, you're at the high-level enterprise risk and reactive tasks. Generally, in between, we have some sort of assessment, risk-based assessment, which we'll talk about in other things, or if you've seen other blogs that we've done, a risk-based assessment. What are those? What are the components? It leads into your enterprise security program. Again, that check, act, plan, do, that circle that goes around. We align that to a security risk program, and then ultimately to enterprise risk. So what do we have to do to align those gaps? First off, it helps to understand what we're all looking for as departments. Everybody wants someone to tell them what to do. None of us really know all the things that we should know about all facets of our job, and it's so nice if someone just tells us what to do. So we're all looking for, no matter what level you are, we're all looking for someone to tell us. If we're in operations, and this is typically the IT operations or security operations, tell me what you want me to do. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do. Just tell me what you want me to do. Do you want me to secure it? Do you not? Should I buy this? Should I not? Someone tell me what to do. Risk management. Risk management from that same person, they want to know, tell me where we are and where we want to go. So they have to interface with a couple of different folks. The business or the executive sponsors or the CFOs or the enterprise risk, everyone wants to know, tell me what you need and why you need it. Why do you need that extra lock? Why do you need that camera? How much does it cost? What benefit are we getting out of it? Just tell me all that stuff and I'll easily make a decision. And then from auditors, all they really are looking for is, well, tell me what controls to use. Tell me what checklist I should be using. Do I have to follow HIPAA? What if we have HIPAA and PCI? Just tell me which ones I got to use. I'll go through that checklist. I'll tell you exactly what we need. So everyone's looking for someone to tell them what to do in this, just in life in general, but particularly within security risk management. And we have a lot of communication issues because how we talk very differently depending on what group we're in. If we're in audit, we typically talk about controls because that's what we know. Do you have this? Do you not? Yes, no, black and white, period. In businesses, we talk about what are we willing to accept? How much risk, how much loss are we willing to accept for what cost? When we talk about risk management, we typically need to translate whatever the IT ops is telling us with what the business execs are telling us. What is a business exec? What is our expressed acceptable risk? Translate down to operations. Risk management needs to explain risk without technical terms that we typically get from ops. And IT ops says, again, tell me, typically we express risk in technical terms or controls or what we have or what we don't have. We don't have this firewall, we got to configure this, we have SQL injection, we got to do that. Execs are never going to understand that, they're never going to get that, period. So a lot of communication issues, just first and foremost, a lot of times as a community, we don't even really know what we're talking about. And we certainly don't talk any other group's language. And because they're the executives or the business leaders, that responsibility is going to fall on us as security and risk management practitioners to bridge those communication issues. We definitely have to build our credibility. A lot of times, what we've seen just in general, because of all the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that the tabloids or the news media has put out there, there's a lot of desensitized to what's really going to happen. There's a lot of scare tactics. Typically, we will, in this community, try and use that. but it generally goes over well sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you'll get a call out of the blue. You've been saying the same thing for 3 years. All of a sudden, the CIO reads a story, and the next thing you know, bam, we got to do something. Or the CFO or the CEO or one of the board members even. So we need some vehicle again that gets us over that hump. Some way that we can talk or how to show how we can communicate. It has to be very simple and easy to understand because, again, since we're talking different languages to different groups and we have to satisfy all those groups, it has to be something that each one can understand, even if you don't understand security, even if you don't understand risk, even if you don't understand IT ops or whatever else you need to go. It has to be very practical and useful. It has to allow you to grow with it. And those two things are intertwined in that we need to show how we can actually get some value out of it. Because again, whenever we're doing something like this, we're looking at risk, we're not fixing the hole, we're not digging the ditch, we're not putting the door up, we're not buying a firewall or whatever it might be. So it also has to take advantage of what we're already doing in that we already have a lot of stuff in place. If you are looking to rewrite the way that the organization works and change the culture, that's very, very difficult. And because of that, because of the fact that you're trying to change the culture, if you look to embrace something completely new, you will face tremendous resistance and, again, lots of cost. So there's a lot of them that are defensible. You have to be able to stand behind it and put your money where your mouth is. Why did you get the results that you did? Why are you saying what you said? Why do you say that we have to do this when we should have been doing that? Why do we have to fix the doors when the windows have a problem and we have a hole in the roof? You have to defend everything that you're doing. A lot of them can do that. But it really also needs to be used to lead a discussion. Because from what we've seen in organizations, enterprise risk is still in its infancy. As a matter of fact, in security risk, we're much more mature than many of the enterprise risk management organizations, if there even is one. There is the security risk management, even though we wouldn't call it that, we would call it the security program or what have you. In actuality, our security risk program is much more mature. So we need to lead the discussion with the executives, the CFO, the board, etc. So the way that we do that is we use a very simple risk equation. And this is foundation for much of the risk equations that you've seen. Very simple. People can understand it. Risk equals threat times vulnerabilities minus controls. As Einstein said, you want to make everything as simple as possible, but not simpler. And I think this does it. So if you can talk at this high level, now this does omit in and of itself, when you look at SANS or any of the ISOs or any of those things that might have some other additional factors in it, which we'll talk about in a second. This does not have those, but it captures in its essence what we're talking about when we talk about security risk. Those 4 components are really the core of what we're looking to do. And a big thing is we have to define it, because we still as a community today see organizations and companies and people who are in those organizations and who that's all their job, misusing the term threat and vulnerability, just of those 2. So, and interchanging threat and risk and mixing up a lot of terms. So again, we all get confused. No one knows what we're really talking about, particularly if executives say it. We're not generally able to correct them. So I try to put what we have just down at the most simplistic terms. It omits a bunch of things, I realize that, but just for the sake of simplicity, risk is really the chance of something bad happening. If you just leave it at that, what's the chance that something bad's going to happen? A threat, what's the potential cause of that something bad happening? A vulnerability, what's the hole that threat can take advantage of? What's the weakness that they're looking to get? And then a control is probably established, or a countermeasure, or a safeguard. What can we put in place to block that hole? Can we put a door in there? Can we put a lock? That type of thing. Risk management really then, in that whole circle and all the people talking together, is really about determining the acceptable level of perceived risk, because a lot of times we won't know. So that perceived is a big thing. A perceived risk assessing the current level, how do we take steps to reduce it to an acceptable level and then maintain that level of risk so that, again, from our name, SecureState, we don't get into a reduced state. And then lastly, security is really the ability to protect information and our resources, and that's information security, but any resources that we have. And now what we've done is we've expanded that out into a couple of other areas, and we've made some calculations underneath. We've have quite a few blogs on this, quite a few white papers now coming out. We have a wiki, so a lot more definition of it or explanation behind it, but it allows us to have a legitimate, defensible, quantifiable way that we discuss risk with the executives. It's simple enough, so it takes that basic equation, but it also allows us to pull the definition, and we try and use whatever we can from wherever we get. If someone's got a better idea, we're trying to use that. So we've taken the CVSS score as an example. SANS, ISACA, they have a good control list, et cetera, et cetera. So all throughout that, we've used this as a vehicle to build our case and to build our defense and how we're going to justify what we did and what we didn't do. So again, it starts with the easiest of equations. We have a path to grow. We know where we're going and where we're not, why we're doing certain things. It gives us a way to actually use it in something that, use it when we don't have all the information. Typically, threat is very, very difficult. Threat is the biggest challenge that we have with risk just in general and quantifying anything or even understanding anything. So it gives us a chance to add those variables in. Then we can take all this, multiply it by asset value or data classification or whatever other things that we would need to do to get there. But it gives us a starting point. Is it the most robust? Is it the, everything? Does it work outside of security? No. But from what we've seen, bridging that gap and aligning our security risk management program with enterprise risk management, they're not going to do it for us. It allows us to take a step using what we already have. Again, budgets are tight, incremental expense and time, and gets us to where we want to go. And to follow up, or to finally, really what we're trying to do is align the needs of the organization. There is a cost of accuracy, cost and accuracy, and a benefit of understanding. We always want a benefit of understanding. The more we can understand, the better and better it is. However, there's a cost to that. And at some point in that equation, the cost starts to outweigh the benefit. So that cost and accuracy, as we get more accurate, the cost goes up. But really, the benefit of understanding is incremental or minimal at best. So when we use this approach and we use the iRisk equation, when we use the tools that we have and how we communicate and setting the ground rules of our definitions, we're able to partner with our executives in a way that we were never able to before, in a way that they will take us seriously, in a way that we see many, many organizations failing when they're trying to adopt a security risk management program. So our goal is, and I think what we are able to accomplish with it, again, feel free to jump on the wiki and put in some more value. We love any feedback, where we need to improve, etc. But I think in the way that we've come up with it, we're able to bridge the gap between the highest level executives and tell the layperson who actually has to do this stuff what to do. And we're doing that in the point right there where we can maximize the cost to benefit and the accuracy of the information we get. Thank you very much.